What's that mysterious voices in my head? Buy an army and return to the Iron Kingdoms? All right then. Hello, I do love Mozart, but I hate unboxings, so let's get rid of this and have a look at Zacchaeus. He's a frost wizard on a rabbit. I already built him, he was only in 2 pieces. That arm is 1 piece, attaches to his body via 2 connection points. Detail is crisp, material feels really nice, there's not much flex in it. Well, there's no flex in it at all really, so we will need to be mindful of that. Might give him a little bit of fragility, but by and large, the resin feels pretty sturdy. And I say it's held that detail really nicely. Cleanup was pretty minimal, some supports to trim off and things of that nature, but all in all, quite promising. Let's have a look, see what he looks like with a dotted paint on. Looks a bit like this. So we've gone for a more naturalistic feel on the rabbit, rather than a kind of whimsical albino. We've gone for a more Arctic bunny kind of feel. And again, we've gone somewhat darker with Zacchaeus. Suits my style, my intention, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I don't really do magic effects particularly well, so that's quite a quick and easy bash together. But yeah, that's Zacchaeus. So I think he's painted up pretty nicely. What paints did we use? Well, we used the John Blanche set, specifically set 1 from Army Painter. These are not paid reviews. This is a screenshot from my Amazon page. I bought this with my granddaughter's inheritance, and this is what they look like. Primarily, it's this front shelf. You get this really nice moonbeam yellow. It's a very warm orangey yellow. Blood Moon Red is sensational. Speed paint red, I love it. One of my favourites. Blighted green, Banshee brown, and the darkness. It's a green, it's a brown, it's a blue. They work really nice. Grimdark Shadow. My God, Grimdark Shadow. How I love thee. It's a wash. It's like instant atmosphere. Emperor Gold, beautiful dark gold. Warm skin shade. It's a skin shade. And a nice ivory white. I also use war paint washes by Army Painter quite a lot, so they're in my sort of standard rotation. These 4 speed paints I use an awful lot. If I don't know what colour to do something, one of these will generally do, and they're just nice, sort of somewhat muted, somewhat desaturated. A true black and a true white, because they weren't in the set. And then just some bits and pieces that I like to have about, lighter gold, silvers, and the like. It's all stored on a spice rack for ease and convenience. Essentially, Grimdark Shadow is genius stuff. Brushes. It's a little set of cheap Nick Pro brushes off Amazon. They are synthetic. You get quite a few for your, what's it, about 18 quid, something like that. And this is how they come, in a box. The box is full. I have used a couple of these. I think if I'm reviewing stuff, it's incumbent upon me to actually use them to tell you what they're like. It's quite a tight set. Box was a little bit broken when it came, but I'm not going to fall out with them over that. You get a number of sort of same sizes but different bristle lengths, which is quite nice. If you're using a longer bristle length with a wash or a speed paint, do be careful because it can flick a bit. And because these are synthetic, they are quite bouncy. And this is what the 5 that I've used look like after a good few hours of use. So you can just see how they wear, really. They've worn really quite nicely. Tiny bit of splitting on that flat, but nothing outrageous. And I've used a wet palette for the first time ever. This particular one seems like quite a canny little thing. You can spend a bit more on this one, get it with some brushes, but I've had those pastel brushes before. And this is what the palette looks like, again, after a bit of use. So do forgive. It comes in 3 pieces, held together with a big elastic band. You can see there's a bit of paint on the top there from where I was basing Zacchaeus and didn't want to put him directly on my desk. You get it's not a dry palette, not a wet palette, so maybe it's a dry palette, I don't know. Again, this is it after use. I did end up using pretty much all of those wells. They have cleaned up okay-ish. If I lived on my own, I would pop it in the dishwasher, and I think that would sort it out. I also think my husband would have a nervous breakdown if I put palettes in his dishwasher. So yeah, and there's the bottom piece under there, which you can use for your wet palette, which I will now have a think about. Also on my mat there, you can see there's like a little crenellated piece of plastic. That's a brush holder that came with this. It's a bit of foam after I've used it, washed it, hung it on the washing line to dry out. It is rock hard, and I just wanted to see if it does rehydrate nicely. And I mean, ultimately, yeah, it does. It rehydrates absolutely fine. I've never used a wet palette before. I am unfamiliar with what this material is. They call it foam. It feels like a sort of neoprene to me. It's weird stuff. It's quite fun. It's quite tactile, quite nice to play with. And it does appear to rehydrate really well. And you get a good few pieces of this in the box. So I think it's got a good amount of longevity to it. You get several bits of paper to go on top of it as well. And yeah, it's a nice, kind of tidy thing. The foam seems to have a good amount of flex to it. Holds a good amount of water. It's all fun stuff. I've done some basing as well. I do like basing. Basing's one of my favourite bits of doing miniatures. This stuff is Geek Scenics Basing Mix. Forgive me, I cannot remember the blend name, but they do a range of them, and I would suggest find the one you like and go with that. This is great stuff. My personal theory on basing is you want 3 textures on a base to make it look kind of interesting, visually appealing, all the rest of it. And there's just something about this stuff that I find really, really pleasing. I mean, it looks like a sort of wild hillside at that point. It's just a case of a bit of PVA glue. Things give it a dip in there. And you end up with a really nice looking base for absolutely zero effort. And that's literally all this base is a quick go in the Scenic Mix and a couple of tufts. The reason I particularly like this stuff, I use it on everything because I think it goes with everything. I think you can give, certainly an army, or if you've got a couple of smaller war bands or whatever. So this is some Warcry stuff. Myself and my buddy Paulie, who I play Warcry with, done some basing on our armies, and it pulls everything into a shared reality. It also scales up really nicely onto those bigger models. So I'm pretty confident that for Warmachine, where you've got bigger models and colossals, etc., I think it's going to work really well. And then finally, just again, a bit of evidence. I paid for Zacchaeus with my own cash pennies. Here he is. I said it before, I'll say it again. I think he's a really nice thing. It's my husband coming downstairs. I'm not going to edit him out. I'm too far through this. He's a really nice thing. I think there's loads of nice momentum, forward motion in that model. Everyone's got a great face. When have I ever got to paint a giant rabbit before? Never. So that's been a bit of a rare treat. So I don't generally paint magic effects and things. It's always an interesting challenge. But I think it's worked out quite well. I don't do glows. I can't do them, so I don't really push myself to do them. There's a close-up of the rabbit's eye. I'm not being proud about the quality of the rabbit's eye. I wanted to show you the line fault. Have a good look, because it's there. My final thoughts. It's certainly entirely possible to paint miniatures to a decent standard for a fairly minimal expenditure. We got some decent brushes. They're good enough. Could you get better? Probably. But they'll do the job. It's badger fur on a stick at the end of the day, and we use it to apply paint to dollies. I'm sure artists will tell you differently, and if you want to accomplish results like them, listen to them. If you're interested in colouring in your little men so you can get them on the table, start playing a game. I said, those Nick Pros, they're all right. The palette, a thing in which we mix paints, it works, does the job. I've never used a wet palette before. I'm not sure I'm using it to its best effect, but it's quite a nice thing. It's quite pleasant. I can put it away at the end of the day. I use my desk for painting, for modelling, and for my paid job of work. So it's important that I can tidy things away quite effectively. And it certainly hits those marks. Entirely good enough. Better than an old plate? Don't know. A nice to have, not a need to have. The paint set by John Blanche, or the paint set by Army Painter inspired by John Blanche, there's some banging paints in there. That red and the Grimdark Shadow, love them. And it's a nice set. It is a nice set. It's given me a lot of inspiration, a lot to think about. And it really has kind of G'd me up to do some painting, again, to get that army looking nice and on the table. A couple of glaring omissions from a miniature painting perspective. A true black and a true white. Adding a couple of those in really sort of helped the process along. And there's a couple of those sort of standard things that I lean on quite heavily in my painting, those couple of speed paints that you saw, and the Army Painter set of washes. I use them a lot. They really do sort of speed the process up and help me get a consistent result across my army. So that paint set from Army Painter, it's great. Is it complete? It might be for you. It wasn't for me. I did need those extra additions. Geek Scenics Gaming Mix. If I can recommend one thing to you, it's that. I think it's absolutely tremendous. I know there wasn't a title card on there about how much I bought it for, how much, where it came from. I buy my sort of service items, if you like, from eBay, just because it's generally kind of easier. Amazon's a bit funny with these things. So pop on eBay, grab one of them, and it's great. I love the stuff. I really can't rate it highly enough. Thoroughly enjoy using it. Get loads of really nice comments about how nice my bases look, which do wound a bit when you invest a great deal of time and effort in painting a miniature to the best of your ability, and then someone looks at it and goes, "Do you know, I really like what you've done with the base." I painted some glue on it and I dipped it in some stuff what I bought. So it's a blessing, it's a curse, but it's a fantastic product. I really enjoy. Zacchaeus himself. Where do I start? He's a nice model. There's no getting away from that. Very, very happy with him, largely. The sculpt is fantastic. The material feels really quite nice for a 3D printed resin. I have no complaints about those things. That line fault. And I know you're going to say, Chris, it's tiny, it's imperceptible, all the rest of it. Before I put paint on him, it was completely imperceptible. I had no idea. I was delighted. Once I put the paint on, I saw that line fault. It goes right the way around the miniature there. And it is very tiny, it's very small. Tabletop distance, you can't really see it. But I've just bought a new phone. And if this had come with a tiny crack in the screen, it would have gone back. Just bought a new car. And if that had come with just a tiny scratch down the side of it, it would have gone back. And I don't really know why, in the world of miniatures games, we are expected to accept anything less than perfection. Miniatures gaming, it's a hobby. Some may describe it as an expensive hobby. I guess on an objective basis, we're paying 28, 30 quid for a little man. Maybe it is. It's not golf bats, it's not fishing sticks. So it's all entirely subjective. And I get an awful lot of enjoyment out of my hobby from the sort of choosing, rolling ideas around in the back of my head, buying, collecting, painting, putting them on the table, spending quality time with people of whom I am surpassingly fond. Should we expect perfection for what we get, for what we pay? I think maybe we should. Back in the day, many, many moons ago, for one is white of hair and yellow of tooth these days, but miniatures used to be cast out of lead by men in their sheds. We are not at that point anymore. At that point in time, was it reasonable to expect miscasts? Could be argued that it was. Cottage industry prices were now paying a decent whack, and our little line faults acceptable. I'll leave that one up to you, my friends. I am not going to fall out with anyone over that line fault. I think 3D printing, online rules, etc., they are the future of our hobby, and I think SFG could really kind of lead the way, yeah. I hope they do. I hope Warmachine goes on to enjoy a fantastic long life as a really successful wargame system. And by extension, I hope SFG goes on to enjoy great success as a business. That is healthy to the game that I love. But I can't want it more than SFG do. I'm still waiting on a pre-order of my old Umbria stuff to arrive. It's the reason I bought Zacchaeus, because my old Umbria stuff pre-order hasn't arrived. I'm told that's because of production issues. Well, the why is not important to me. The what is important to me as a consumer. A pre-order suggests that I might reasonably expect my stuff to be sent out to me on release day. If people knew how many copies of things that they needed to produce, and then I'm told to accept that it's production issues, and that's it. I haven't directly pre-ordered from Steamforged. The company that I pre-ordered from just send me an email. "'Tis what it is, Chris." Oh, okay. So we're now a week later, and zero communication, zero alternative. I don't know. Maybe that's the sort of customer service that one might expect in any other industry. We can't get you item A, but we have your money. We could give you your money back. We could send you something else instead. Those options don't exist in our hobby. And that, I think, is pretty poor, generally speaking. So I've been at this for quite a long time. And I just think the way that the customer gets treated in this industry, it's unlike any other. It's unlike any other. I'll leave that with you. I'm not falling out with anyone, not falling out with anything. I'm, in point of fact, waiting for the Cador half of the two-player starter box to arrive. Fingers crossed, should be here any day now. That would be nice. So it'll be a sort of old Witcherize them in the painting and document it for you fine people. That's it. So my final thoughts. Things are all right. Perfect? No. Good enough? Maybe. But we can do what we can do. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.